In some of my more cinematic videos, I've actually called down to an airfield specifically to record the sound of an engine starting. And I've transposed that sound onto my flight simulator video for that realism effect and the immersion of the video itself. Now, the generic sounds that come with some of these flight simulators just don't have the chops. I know some add-on providers for X-Plane, for example, some are better than others and some are actually quite bad. But Microsoft have gone to great lengths to record brilliant sound, as it looks like. And also we're going to be looking into the question, well, why is sound so important? We're going to be looking at Microsoft Feature Discovery Series Episode 5 Soundscape released earlier on this week. I've also noticed some hidden features throughout this video that they have not talked about yet, and we'll be getting to that shortly. Welcome, you're watching the Reaction Review with me, GripperSim. If you're new to the channel and thinking of getting into this relaxing hobby, don't forget to like, subscribe and hit that bell for notifications on new content every week. Azimuth Studios, who are charged with making Flight Simulator 2020, are talking a great deal about the science behind the sounds. They're talking about the audio kinetic Y system they're using, about dynamic mixing, and a little bit about the Doppler effect, which I'm really pleased to hear about. I'm not going to bore you with the science, but I want to show you a montage of just the sounds they show in the video. Then we'll discuss them and see why sound is so important to me as a real aviation professional. Audio director Aurelian Peters does talk over some of the clips from time to time, but that's fine. And by the way, kudos to him. Let's have a listen.
Depending on the speed of the aircraft passing by and your own speed, the engine pitch will be modulated, as it would in the real life. Attenuation, reflections, Doppler effects all together brings accuracy and give an organic feeling to the sonic source of the new Microsoft Flight Simulator. More than the engine, we also carefully recorded cockpit buttons, switches, instruments, or even flaps. Or when you're doing a far from perfect landing, you're going to hear the impact and the physical rattle of the plane. A really useful feedback to determine how successful your landing was. We also simulated the aerodynamics wind flow on the plane using wind sounds. Especially in external view, where we can have more creativity, you'll be able to hear your actual plane movements. And in Flight Simulator, there's many variables for you to tweak, and each of them is connected to audio. Let's say you increase the wind. You'll not only be able to feel the wind during your flight experience, but also hear the wind. We also have rain, thunder, and even storm for a complete weather experience.
I'm amazed with such detail because that's how lightning works. It's not like in the movies where you see the lightning and the sound at the same time. Sound takes time to travel. And you can see they have sound engineers and a sound director working on the sound for this flight simulator. So as you well know, I'm always giving out about sound and it's a pet peeve with me. And I do believe sound in a simulator should be equal or better than the graphics. But why? Well, we're all looking to escape reality, if you think about it, and immerse ourselves in a simulated world which gives depth and enhances our experience in our flight simulator. Now, as I said in the title, why is sound so important in the flight simulator? Well, why is sound so important in aviation? For example, most pilots who fail their Class 1 medical, that's your aviation medical, they fail it because of their hearing, their ears. They can't hear certain sounds. Here's a quick example off the top of my head. When you're in or flying a normally aspirated piston engine, you test the magnetos. Those are the keys. And what you're doing is you're switching off one magneto and the other. I won't get into details, but you can hear the engine change sound for start as it decreases in RPM. But if you have what's called spark plug fouling, that's bits of carbon in the spark plug, you can hear the engine effectively running rough, okay? And you can also hear it whilst you're flying if one of those spark plugs have gone rough. And then you can deal with it appropriately. So that's quite important. Another one is rough engine running. Off the top of my head, let's say we get some carburetor icing. That's icing in the part of the engine of the carburetor that's beginning to build and it's blocking the fuel and airflow into the engine. You get what's called rough running, is the most common symptom. You want to be able to hear that well in advance. So there are lots of things in aviation where hearing is important. Now, they haven't said the question in Microsoft, will they have these implemented in the flight simulator? Now, it looks to me, they were saying that any developer can make any sound they want. It looks to me like that is very much possible indeed. So these are some of the reasons why sound and hearing is so important in aviation. This clip actually really does intrigue me because it's not about the engine noise at all, or the engine sound. It's about the air moving over the airframe and the surfaces of the aircraft. For example, when I'm in a long cross country with a student there to keep straight and level flight, which is a constant heading, constant altitude, and I can tell you just by listening, not by looking at the instruments, just by listening, I can tell you if they're climbing or descending. Because when you're climbing, the engine RPM decreases, or when they're descending, the RPM increases. Now, when you're descending a little bit more than you should be, I can hear a very subtle change in the actual airflow over the airframe of the wings. And of course, I look in at him, and as I'm turning my head, I know he's descending, and I'd say you're descending, and lo and behold, the vertical speed indicator is indicating rate of descent. So hearing can be quite important. Why is sound so important for a flight simulator like this? Well, I think it's pretty obvious to you guys why it's important, because we're trying to simulate reality, and trying to simulate reality we need good immersion. And for a computer game, or a simulator in this case, good sound and good graphics go hand in hand, because that's the only two senses we can use for a flight simulator or any computer game for that matter, and plainly Microsoft get this. Now, I'm going to show you two clips to have a think to yourself which one is better. So it's pretty obvious that the second clip was real sounds from a real aircraft, and that's exactly what Microsoft are doing. They're recording real sounds, so it's absolutely fantastic. I'm really very impressed with the whole Microsoft thing. I don't know where to be looking. I can't wait for it to come out. Anyway, let's have a look at the two things, or some of the things I noticed in those clips that got my interest piqued. First one is the grass, and the second one is waves. In some of the clips, the grass is plainly moving with the wind, and you can actually hear the grass moving. And some of the other clips where there's no wind, the grass isn't moving. So have they tied in not only the grass with the environment, but have they tied in the trees? So if there's a storm, you see the tree rocking back and forth, etc. The other thing I noticed is the ocean. It appears that the ocean is also dynamically tied to the weather. So he's increased the wind speed to 20 knots here, and you can see there's a bit more wave action going on. 50 knots, and you can see it looks absolutely real, the ocean. So that's obviously tied in with the environment also. Great. No more sound plugins, thank God for that. Now, I was going to post this video on Wednesday, so surprise, the next video will be on Friday. If I can fit one on Wednesday, all the better. But definitely Fridays is my schedule. Thanks a million for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments, and we'll see you next time, Friday, on the Reaction Review. Yeah.